Long-time no seat, right? You got it. How's it going, man? Okay, guys, good afternoon. Appreciate you being here. Obviously, the first thing that needs to be mentioned, again, was thanking everybody for last night. The atmosphere provided, absolutely incredible by our fans, stadium, everybody, just an electric atmosphere, provided a lot of juice and a ton of energy. Our players loved it. Hats off to the players and staff for great game plan, executing it, playing with tremendous effort and physicality, which is the story of a game like that, and then finding a way to close out a game, you know. So extremely proud, and at the same time, extremely excited to get to work on the things we got to fix and get better, because again, just the whole goal is to keep getting better and better every single game as the year goes on. So all graded offense, defense, special teams, and on to the next opponent, but here to answer any questions.
You've graded obviously every practice from spring on, and every play is dissected, but how does the process change when it's another opponent, not just another opponent, but a really good opponent like you had last night? How does that differ in the grading and finding out really where you are and what has to be done?
Well, I mean, there's some battles. First of all, you assess what you did well, what you didn't do well, and those things. I mean, if it's not good enough in a loss, it shouldn't be good enough in a win. So always be completely just straight up and honest with ourselves all the time. And then also continue to take a deep dive into several positions that had some really thick competition of guys that maybe edged out somebody else, but those guys are still in contention for more significant roles, for even attaining a starting spot, keeping those battles alive. That's only going to make us better. And it's very thorough. I mean, top to bottom, we analyze every bit of it, every single bit of it. And we feel that going into week 2, that there are a good amount of those battles that will continue to take place.
You talk about the importance of looking forward, looking ahead with the rest of the season you have. Is it easier said than done after a big win, a big game like you just had with Notre Dame as you try to prepare for week 2?
You know, always anything's easier said than done. I do agree with you there. And I also think that you're witnessing a team that's been growing and developing over the past several years where, I don't know, it felt like with so many great things that happened last year, sometimes you felt like you were hanging on more than what it felt like yesterday where you actually closed the game out. I think that's a pretty significant difference and a pretty significant step for a team, especially as it relates to just flat out physical conditioning and physicality, you know, playing with that type of temperament. So I think we all witness every single week in college football that if you're not on your game at your best, you'll be exposed. Okay, and we don't want to learn that kind of a lesson. So we have a very straightforward and unique way to make sure that we're amped up and working really hard.
What do you feel like you learned about how this team responds to adversity from yesterday?
I do feel that their care factor for the game, for their performance, and for each other is extremely high. We felt that as this team started coming together more and more towards the beginning of the summer, and that they're very driven to the level of they refuse to let anything get in the way of getting the job done. That really stands out because as we watch film, even when there was a bust, you see 11 guys trying to fix it. If a guy missed a block, you see a running back just churning those legs, man, trying to find a way to get that first down or get an extra yard, or guys trying to stick in their move piles like on the touchdown. So I think those things really stick out, and they're going to have to, right? Because every single week, in essence, is a playoff game. And I think our guys are understanding that aspect more and more.
Blocking and tackling in a game 1 can always be iffy. You never know what you got. But how do you feel like it went for you guys yesterday in that regard?
Well, you know, going into this game, and I'll get to that in a second, we thought that the obvious about Notre Dame was they led the country in forcing turnovers, and they led the country in turnover margin. And we walk out of there +2. You know, excuse me, ball security was good, you know, can still get better, but we did not turn the ball over. And we forced a couple turnovers by them, one of them leading to 3 points, the other one botched snap on a field goal. So that point of emphasis was massive. And then we knew that it was going to be a line of scrimmage football game. They have a great team. I mean, those physical battles up front, credit to them. That thing was a back and forth all night long. And then we found a way to get, you know, an edge here and there and find a way to punch through and eventually take control of the game at the end. But it was a back and forth. I mean, that thing was a slugfest the whole way through. And I think this team, learning from them, is what I've learned from them is that they enjoy the physical and violent nature of the game. You know, they're understanding that that's an aspect that at the end of the day, it's still football, right? It's not a pageant. It's not how you look. It's how you play, and that the physicality aspect has to apply out on the edge. And mind you, I got to mention this: the wide receivers block their tails off, man. That sticks out about as much as anything. I mean, I know the offensive guys were in there watching those guys, and they are like at the top of the priority list to mention because of the way they threw their bodies around. And I thought they showed great composure because, football, it is what it is, man. Things happen. You get your face mask grabbed and pulled and punched, and we haven't been as smart with those things in the past. And our guys showed composure, found a way to just get back in the huddle and go back to work.
Similarly, on the perimeter, on the flip side, that they tested the corners to come up and tackle in space on some of those perimeter throws. How'd they do in that regard?
They did a really good job, obviously forcing the one turnover and forced a couple of plus ones or no gain plays. The one time when the ball got out on us, was when the nickel has to force. He is the force player on that, and the ball gets outside of that. The trap corner, the safety's trying to come back over the top and make the play, but he's supposed to force that. Aside from that, I thought we played good physical football with our best football ahead of us. Technically, we were good, used our hands well, bend it at the knees, got good extension, lockout, shed blockers well. Block destruction was very prevalent both at the line of scrimmage, inside and on the perimeter.
Mario, were there things with Carson that you learned more about going through a whole game? I know we talked about practices, what you saw from him in the past, but was there anything that stood out game-wise?
Yeah, he's very calm, cool, collected, very smart, sees it. He knows when he's got to get rid of it quickly and knows when he has a little bit more time. Tried to escape the one time, on the sack was close. That guy just rounded the corner on him pretty tightly, so he couldn't get out of that. But his understanding of the game and what they're throwing at him was awesome. His sideline demeanor was outstanding. And that is a team that covers really, really well, both in zone and in man. They are really hard to throw the ball against. So tremendous job by him.
You guys go ahead, Chris.
I'm just curious about what you made of the run game. Not high totals, but obviously finish it off with some key runs. Just your overall thoughts on what you saw from the run game.
Solid to good. I mean, we're very close to popping some really big ones, and that's a matter of sustaining blocks, hat position, hat placement, finish against a team that, again, in our opinion, was one of the top 5, if not the best defense in the country. That's very, very physical, and that the yards were going to be muddy, bloody, tough yards, and we found a way to get those. So really proud of the way that those guys played up front, moved the line of scrimmage, and the way that the backs ran. The backs ran really hard.
Any update on Jordan Lyle?
He's going to be okay. I mean, he tweaked his leg for a second, but all indications that he is a full go even tomorrow's practice.
And the follow-up on those, just the value of having multiple backs who can't be like having Mark, Jordan, and Marty, just what you've learned over the last few years about having a committee of running backs that are able to rotate in, and the value of that.
I think it's really hard to win without that. And I think it's really hard to have a team that can't understand the value of that. There's no such thing as having first stringers and then a couple of backups. It's hard to win at high levels and sustain winning without having, a complete first and second deep and having threes that are as good or even better, in time than the guys that you have going in with the twos. You have to roll guys in and out. Football, excuse me, football season is long, right? These games are really, really physical. Like, for example, this week's a short week, and the backs are a prime example of being able to roll guys in, particularly early in the season as guys are continuing to getting into true game shape. So I guess as simple as it's invaluable to have that.
You guys turned the middle 8 into really the middle 13 last night with 5.5 and then a 7.5, then a drive. Obviously, you can't do it. I mean, there's things you can do better, I'm sure, on some of those plays. Fundamentally, you can't do that any better. How rewarding was that to see being able to manage the last 5.5 of the half and then come out and just take up so much clock to start the third?
We didn't want to give the ball back before halftime, and we felt like we had some really, really good momentum. We got snagged up there. We thought that they were holding our player down and burning an extra 12 seconds off the clock. We thought we were getting the flag. We didn't, but we managed to still convert and score. And knowing that we were going to get the ball first in the second half, locker room, that was a point of contention. Certainly, the players were very determined to come on out and start fast, and they did. And a lot of it was on the ground, pound the ball really well in the form of split zone, duo, you name it, wide zone, and got after it, finished blocks, and I thought both of those were statement drives, drives that showcase a little bit about what we're capable of. So the middle eight has been something that we've been very good at for quite some time now, and truly swings the momentum of most games, and I think it certainly did last night.
We talked last night also about how CJ had been in the portal previously. Did you try?
Oh, I try, brother. I try. Trust me, I try. To the ends of the earth and beyond. Yeah, watching him at Liberty, I thought he was an unbelievable high-level playmaker. You know, I mean, the guy, contested catch rate was off the charts. Catch radius was huge. Could run the entire route tree with ease. Could play inside, could play outside, had length. And, you know, just demeanor-wise, and all the background checking was about a guy that was a true pro about his approach. Like his impact on that receiver room, it can't be overstated. He has changed the way those guys approach the game. Tremendous impact on those guys. So, oh yeah, I've chased him for a long, long time. Finally got him.
And Carter shared last night that when he got told that he'd won the job, he cried tears of joy.
When, I'm sorry?
When you decided on the kicker.
Yes.
He said he cried tears of joy, very emotional about it. Couldn't wait to go find his parents last night. Just seems like a very, very happy-go-lucky kind of kid. I know it was down to the wire kind of. What was the separation?
And you know, I've fortunately been part of some great kicking competitions here as a player and as a coach. I remember Carlos Huerta walking on from Columbus High School, and you had 5-star guys like Sung Kim and another couple high-profile guys here, and then the guy walked on, you know, kicks that last 52-yarder, and Coach Johnson says, "You're the man," you know. And this one was one like that. We feel like we have two kickers, quite honestly. That's how strongly we feel about them. And people looked at, you know, taking Carter and like, man, that guy was 4 of 11 at FAU. It's like, well, you know, that's like looking at a high school film and saying, well, that they haven't won many games, and you know, he doesn't have a bunch of tackles. Well, maybe he's out of position. Why don't you take a deeper dive? What truly is he, and what is he not doing, and what can he do to be a real good player? We thought the operation, the processes can really just elevate his talents, because as you saw, that ball is out the end zone just about every time, and it just explodes off his foot. But both those guys, him and Bert, and I know they're tight, they're just hard-working, accountable dudes that want to win. And that competition was close. You know, the edge was slight, but it was there. We went with it. So we trusted it, and it paid off. And all you can trust is what you see in practice, right? That's all you can do.
Coach, if you could hypothetically talk to the recruits across the nation, how would you describe to them what Malachi Tony did from day one to coming here and the game you guys trust to the point where you would put him out there the first punt of the season? How would you describe it?
That's a good question. You know, it all starts with his approach. What he is as a person, as a competitor. It doesn't matter if it's school or practice, taking care of his body, preparing for a lift. Like, he's always early. And when he's early, he's prepared. He's not just kind of a disheveled freshman trying to put on all his stuff. Like, the guy comes in every single day with intention. I'm talking like a pro. Does not resemble a freshman in any way, shape, or form. He instantly gains trust because people know that if he doesn't get it right, he's going to bust his butt to make sure he gets it right. Now, he's blessed beyond measure, right? I mean, his speed, athleticism, ability to track the football, body control, I mean, exceptional, right? But his daily approach and his football IQ, natural ability to beat man coverage or find soft spots in zone, coupled with that attitude, if you want a team full of those kinds of attitudes, you see in a guy like a Mark Fletcher, you see in the guy, there's so many, the Reuben Baines, you know, the Brockermeyers, the CCs, right, the Coops, Makeem Mesdor, and Malachi Tony just happens, he has that as a freshman.
You touched on it last night too, but watching it on tape, the way Bain and Mesidor took their game to another level in the fourth quarter, those were both guys that worked hard to improve their conditioning levels this year. Did you see that on the tape when you were watching the game again today?
No doubt, right? If you want to win football games in modern day football, you got to have people that can rush the passer in the fourth quarter, right? So many of these games are coming down to the wire. Those guys, they work themselves to their most minimal body fat, Mesro got himself to 265, 270. Bain about 275. Really trimmed down. Worked on their conditioning relentlessly, not just by what we did in the summer, but in practice. That's where you really see it. There's one way to get in football shape. Play football really hard, and that's what they do. That ball spits out there, they're hauling butt to chase down the ball. Like Bain being there for the interception, that's not a surprise. That's every day in practice. Now, the ball hasn't bounced off an ankle and landed in his hands, but he's always been there. And when you haul to the ball, like, good things typically happen, and just so happened he showed some good ball carrying skills as well.
From a recruiting perspective, just how big is getting a win like this standalone Sunday night against the national runner-up? Just how much juice does that kind of give you guys on the trail as you guys try to close this thing out?
Well, I think having people there, the environment, the environment was awesome. People needed to see that, and then people needed to see Miami, against a top 5, top 10 opponent, and be able to perform and close it out and get it done. So those things are really, really valuable, as so are the relationships formed and the validation of, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, because it's exemplified in, like, talking with Ruben Bain, like we mentioned last night, sitting outside of Hard Rock in 22, trying to explain, on a butt beating on the scoreboard, and how, look, we just got here. There's a lot to fix. Every place has a different starting point, and this one is not good. So we're going to get our teeth kicked in. We're tough as hell. We could deal with it. We just need the right people and a bunch of them. And he stuck with that. And so moments like that, right, you have like an actual like living story that can tell that to the rest and explain what that means and what that's like. And I do feel this in football, the ones that go through it and end up, mind you, we're in game 1, so that's it. We got a long ways to go. But the ones that go through it and end up punching through as they become juniors and seniors, those are the ones that have the best lessons and the best experiences. Those are the life-changing parts of football that I think are critically important to, really, society.
So a few more.
Your D tackles, just after watching the tape, what's your assessment on how they performed?
They played well, man. They played well. They were physical. They got their hands on the offensive linemen. They maintained their gaps for the most part. They got penetration. They were hard to block. Pass rush was solid. I thought David Blay, Armando Blanc played with great energy. Thought Justin Scott, obviously the fumble force, made a really big play. Thought Ahmad Moten was really disruptive. I do think all those guys, their best football's ahead of them. I think they've been pushed really hard. They've responded well. The scheme fits them. They're allowed to play fast and free. But they showed up last night, and I think, the quarterback draws are the ones that hit us. Those were the chunk yards, right? And the one that got out. Aside from that, they did a really good job of making things bounce, of just squeezing air out of those gaps and making the run game a little bit more difficult for Notre Dame.
Guys are going to see, scores, and they know what Bethune did this weekend with FIU. How do you just guard against? I think you get up to Notre Dame because it's Miami Notre Dame. How do you try to duplicate as best you can that same focus going into a game like this?
Well, I think number one, the reality, point out the fact that they do have a lot of good players, because we scout everybody, and there's a lot of players from Florida and out of state on that team that we know and recognize. And whenever teams have a lot of returning starters up front, automatically dangerous. So that they can block you, they can do some things to hurt you, okay? And I know their head coach, he's a hell of a football coach and a really good motivator, and this is a big game for both them and for us, Last game has no value if you don't take care of this next game, and that goes on for every game as the season goes on. So it's our job to get right through in whatever ways necessary. And we have very direct and very right at you ways between the eyes to get the point across, and that must be done. And the best part about that, honestly, I believe this: our players respect that. Our players respect that. It takes what it takes,
Did you get any sleep?
Well, sorry.
Did you get any sleep?
Yeesh. We have a lot of recruits in town. We have a short week.
No, it's a way of saying no.
Great coffee. Great coffee. But you know what? How blessed are we, right? Thank God. The opportunity that we had last night, the opportunity to capitalize on a lot of people, staff, players, for Hurricanes everywhere, to capitalize and to be able to wake up the next morning and get right back at it again on a team that's very healthy. We walked out of there in a really physical game I was expecting to see a MASH unit list this morning, and we came out, you know, healthy. So press on, right?
That's it.
Press on.
Thanks, Coach.
Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson. We'll go right to questions for Coach Dawson.
Was CJ's catch entirely your expert tutelage in that regard?
I can't take a lot of credit for that. that the play was a play we were going to run in that situation. He ran a great route. Carson just got a little bit of pressure and kind of floated it up, and the safety played over the top, but unbelievable catch. I mean, if you don't catch it, it might get picked. I mean, the guy's tracking the ball pretty good, so if he could have a little bit cleaner second, Carson probably throws that a little lower, and it's like right in between them, that's kind of what we anticipated on that play. But he floated it a little bit, and that was a unbelievable catch by CJ, to end the half, which was huge.
To be able to run the last 5.5 off the clock, going into the half, sans the kneel down, of course, and then to eat up the first 7.5
Yeah.
of the third quarter, just how good
Well,
is that?
I mean, we talk about the middle eight. I mean, I think that's crucial to any game, especially when it's a evenly matched game. When it's a game like that, the middle eight is crucial. And so when we got the ball at the end of the half, and I think it was 5:21 left, and I think they got the ball back with 14 seconds. And you want to score. You want to score a touchdown, obviously, but a field goal is fine too. But just the way we went down the field there, and then we got the ball the second half, which is huge, and then we took like 7.5 minutes and scored. So that was really, on our side, that was the story of the game, because we kind of hit a lull right after that. And but that was really what put us in the driver's seat and put us in a situation to win it. In good teams like Notre Dame, I mean, you get up on them and you get a chance to put them away. Those teams are hard to put away, because they're good and they have a lot of pride. And, so they fought back, credit to them. And then when we had to go down and do it, we did.
Not to filibuster, but just one more follow-up on that. How much do you pay attention to the coin toss? Because that having that right to defer obviously is something that's pretty important.
No, I mean, I do think that having the right to defer is big, because if you can get the middle eight, and be successful with it, then you get back-to-back possessions where you can get a 14-point swing like that. That's crucial.
Talk a little bit about the commitment to the running game last night.
Yeah.
Particularly the running between the tackles and turning it into a power game. And I mean, those are hard yards that you guys were.
Yeah, I felt like we were getting good push. Even at the first drive, we were backed up, but we were getting good push throughout the game. And so I did feel their edges were tough at times. They caved us a little bit on some split flow stuff that we were doing. But I felt like we were getting good push in the middle, and we had some wide zone stuff that was stretching and hitting pretty decent. And the combination of those two, I thought, was very, very critical for that 7-minute drive in the third quarter, because I thought that's when, we started leaning on them at that point, and we started hitting some big runs. And then ultimately at the end of the game, we leaned on the run heavily because, our O-line we feel good about it. I trust those guys. I trust the running backs. And in those kind of situations, grinding out a win is the most important. I go back and forth with being aggressive in some of those deals, and I probably would take one of those calls back probably, but there's always going to be a handful of calls in the game that I probably wish I had back. And so, ended up working out.
Going in though, for you, it's going to be hard for you to call a game with that type of discipline.
It all depends on the flow of the game and how it's going. Like if you're not getting anything, then obviously you can't stick with it. But I felt like for the, probably the better part of the game, we were getting good push and good yards in the run game. And so I just felt too that, just to be completely honest with you, their back end defends the pass really well. And that's probably the strength of that team. And as the game went, I was probably as impressed with their back end, as I thought I would be. And so, being able to run the ball in those games like that are crucial.
Shannon, with the run game, just what have you learned over the last couple of years about the value of having that by committee approach, having three or four guys who are able to rotate in and out throughout the length of the long football season?
I think it's the reason, right? You look at those three guys, and Jordan started the game, and then Marty and Mark both had 15 carries, right? And so really it doesn't matter who starts the game. It matters in the sense of you go out there and you've earned that right. But ultimately all three of those guys are going to play, and then at some point we're going to go with the guy that has the hot hand. And so I thought Matt did a great job of rotating those guys in, and when they got their opportunity, they took advantage of it, you know. And so I think it's going to be a different person every week, to be honest with you, which is great. That's awesome for the Canes.
Malachi Tony, I know you guys were really high on what he's been able to do since he got here, but to see him do what he did under the lights in his first game, just what stood out the most to you about what he was able to do last night?
I mean, I think he just showed the world like what we've been seeing every week, you know, and every day in practice. You know, he's been the same guy every day. He's steady, makes plays every day. He doesn't get too up or too down. Very consistent personality, high effort. But yeah, I mean, your hope as a coach is that you go into those games, and especially, you know, you got people questioning the receiver core. That's all I heard for about a month there is like, you know, who's he going to throw the ball to? Well, I had a pretty good idea that we had some people that he could throw the ball to, but, you know, they haven't really done it here for the Miami Hurricanes yet. So it was good to go out there and put that on display some. And I will say that the best thing that receiving core did last night was they blocked their you-know-what off. I'm talking about, like, they took, you know, that to heart. And I tell those guys that, you know, you don't have to have the ball in your hand to affect the game, you know. And I think sometimes skill guys get it in their head that, you know, oh, if I don't get the ball, then how am I going to affect the game? Well, I mean, go affect the game, you know, with effort and blocking. And I will say that, you know, that's probably the best display of effort and blocking I've seen in a receiving core for maybe my coaching career, but in a long time.
Shannon, why do you think that is? Why do you think they took to that? Is it the competition? They know they have to. I mean, why do you think they?
I do think that there's competition at those positions, and I think when you have people competing for playing time and jobs, I mean, it just ups your level of I better do everything right, you know. And I do think it talks to the character of those guys that they're willing to do the dirty work. You know, it's not just about the stuff that puts your name in the paper. And the catch by CJ was elite, but I could pull up 15 clips of him digging out a safety and giving it everything he's got. I mean, to me, that fires me up as much as the catch that gets the catch of the week deal. And so they just take ownership in that as a whole group. And it's not just, honestly, to be very clear, I mean, it's not just the starters. We rolled in other guys like JoJo. You used to see him blocking, you know. I mean, JoJo did a heck of a job doing the same thing, and Ray went in and blocked. And I mean, all those guys are really buying into the fact that, you know, I don't really need the ball in my hand to affect the game. And so, you know, we keep that mentality and the mentality of like, hey man, it doesn't matter who, you know, gets the credit or gets the carries or gets the catches. It's like when I get in there, I'm going to affect the game for my teammates. I think we got a good chance.
Is CJ one of the better leaders you've seen at wide receiver in particular? How has he impacted that room?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I appreciate him, and I appreciate his mentality and his consistency he brings every day. I really do. And he's been through a lot in his career, you know, and to get to this place and really have that leadership spot, and he's earned it. And his voice is very, I wouldn't say loud, but it carries a lot of weight, you know. And the reason it does is because he does everything and even the hard stuff. And so, yes, he has taken a leadership role, and our guys do listen to him. And I definitely appreciate the person he is.
I don't want to ask if it's a surprise, because if you say yes, that's a connotation that you expected otherwise from him. But he was, I mean, much like Carson, they had a resume before they got here. He's an accomplished player.
That's right.
And when you talk about a kid who comes in with a certain cachet, yet is willing to do the little things, kind of how rare is that in 2025 in this era of college football?
Well, I mean, you never know the mentality you're getting sometimes. That's the one thing that's a question mark. You can see the production. I mean, the guy's been a productive player. You know, I mean, I know things might not have went exactly his way at the last stop, but his skill set and the way I view things, I mean, his skill set fits what we do offensively and what I want is that specific receiver. And I know that he can be highly productive within the parameters of our offense, because he does have an elite skill set, you know. And so, and sometimes, you know, those guys get a clean slate and they come in and it's exactly what they need. I mean, it's no different than Carson. I mean, you know, part of his motivation, you know, going into this game is, I mean, everybody was talking about a lot of other quarterbacks that haven't done 1% of what he's done in college football. And I remind him of that all the time, you know. People forget that he's 24-3 and won an SEC championship and all the rest. Well, you wouldn't know it by listening to people. You know, they'd rather praise somebody who hadn't played anybody, you know. And so it is what it is. But he did, I mean, he's a guy that's motivated by that, and he should be. You know, you got to find your why, and his is easy to find because there's a level of disrespect that's been out there. And so, and I thought he played a very, very solid game against a very, very good defense.
You talked about the lull in the second half after the first touchdown drive. What did you see during those 4 drives, and what did you like about how the offense was able to respond in the final drive when you needed them to?
It was, honestly, it was just little things. I mean, we got into a couple short yardage situations and didn't convert. Marty slipped on one. I mean, we had it. If he doesn't slip, it's just unfortunate. You know, I mean, they had some issues probably too on their side, and so it's just some things that happened. So there was 2 short yardage situations where it really just came down to execution on our part, and some little things happened, and we just missed exactly where the ball should have went, and we'll learn from it. And so, and one of the other ones, it was 4, and so one of the other ones, or 3, we had a 2nd and 4, and we had a holding penalty. And so we had a 2nd and 4, and Carson scrambles for a first. We had a holding penalty, put us back behind the chains, and then we didn't convert. And so those things, you know, the 2 short yardage, it was really on us execution-wise. And then we had a penalty that put us back. And so those 3 stopped 3, like, consecutive drives. And then, you know, at the end, whenever they tied it up, I mean, it was basically, you know, I mean, we got to drive the field and score or we're going to get beat. And so there was, the sense of urgency was obviously there. And then, you know, we didn't really do anything to shoot ourselves in the foot that drive, which is really the key. You know, if we get out of our own way, we can do pretty decent.
On the catch by CJ, you said Carson was under a little pressure. They'd taken his legs pretty much from him as he was letting go of the ball. That was a lot of, that's just sheer upper body strength. Is that something we forget sometimes, maybe?
Well, I think people, if you've never been around him, I mean, he's a big guy that, like, has an elite, you know, arm. And so he can make those throws, you know, as good as anybody I've seen. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a, you know, he's a talented guy that's got a lot of ability to make a lot of throws. And so, you know, that one was just, you know, we, like I said, I mean, we knew what we were going to have in that situation. Now, they did play it in the back end. The safety's a little bit different. We had some space between CJ and the safety. It just, the ball floated a little bit, probably more than Carson would have liked. And then, look, I mean, the fact is every ball isn't going to be perfect. Like, you got to, like, sometimes you got to catch the hard ones, you know. Now, that one's, you know, a little bit ridiculous, but we'll take it.
How do you prepare for a game like Saturday in that, you know, it's going to be a Super Bowl feeling for those? I mean, Bethune kids, FCS kids, whenever they play FBS, they want to prove that they belong at a different level and all that. They're coming off of, you know, a tough week 1. You know you're going to get everything that they can think of that's in their playbook. You're going to see some craziness, I'm sure. How do you prepare for that?
Well, I mean, I do think it's a little bit, you know, with our guys, we have older guys that are very mature. And so, honestly, we've flushed this already, and we've focused. I mean, we're going to take every opponent the same way. I mean, you win games through the week of preparation. And it's the same thing I said last week. You know, I told them before the game, I said, you win this game on Green Tree, which you've already done it. So go take what's yours, right? And so we're going to go to work tomorrow, and we're going to put this one to bed very quickly, and we're going to focus on the next week. And so I think it starts with Coach Cristobal and us as a staff to, hey, man, you know, great job, great win for the program, but it's just one win. And so ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's one game a week, and just move forward and focus on the next week, because it truly is, some of the stuff that you get praised about can be the poison that kills you, and so we're well aware of that. And so, it's easy for us to flush it. I flush it pretty quick because, I know that like the other side's not too far away if you don't pay attention to it.
Shannon, you talked about motivation with Carson, and then you've talked about not being Superman. Also, just how do you balance that with him? Or quarterbacks, just how do you balance that, and then how do you think it played out in the game?
I think it played out good. I mean, the only way I can balance it with him is to keep telling him, which is not hard to do, but trust your teammates. Like, trust those big guys up front, trust our skill guys, trust our running backs, trust our tight ends. I mean, we got really good, talented, high character players around you. It ain't all on you, and our O-line is built in a way that, they're going to protect him, and he appreciates that. And, it was those pockets even against those guys. I mean, heck, you watch when they didn't bring one extra guy. If they rushed just 4, we had plenty of time, And so those guys did an elite job protecting him. And so if you give that guy time, he can hurt you, So it's all about trusting the guys around you. I mean, ultimately, even at the end of the game where, we're trying to, obviously you kick the field goal, you win the game. And then I'm trying to get the mentality of ready to go into overtime and all the rest. But ultimately, all I wanted was, I figured if we could get up in that situation, kick a field goal, and make them waste all their timeouts, then our pass rush in a 1-minute situation, good luck. Because I go against them all the time, and I know what they can do. And I also know that if you have no timeouts, a sack is worth about 30 seconds. If you have a timeout, you can play it a little bit different on offense, because if you get a sack, you can blow it. But if you don't have a timeout, a sack the game's over. And I figured that we would get a sack.
So with that in mind, were you thinking field goal that entire drive?
I was. I mean, when we got in field goal range, I started, look, and I've seen our kicker kick it too, so I knew that he could make it. I mean, we do 2-minute a lot, and we do 2-minute where we need a touchdown, and we do 2-minute where we need a field goal. And ultimately, when we crossed that line, we got the first down, and then the next 3 plays, I was going to make them use their timeouts. And then on the 3rd down play, I was, like I always do, I'm itching to put the game away. And ultimately, I had 2 plays in mind. One was what I would call a safe pass play. There's no safe pass plays because, we threw a screen earlier and dropped it, right? So, in the second quarter. And there was, hey, let's run it, right? And so the reason I chose to run it was because they had a timeout and I wanted them to use the timeout. And I didn't want to do something that would save that timeout. Because in my heart, I just knew that 1 minute without a timeout is hard. It's hard when you got an elite pass rush, because a sack is about 30 seconds. And so, yeah, it was a risky deal, because ultimately we got to make the field goal. But I told Carson to trust his teammates. I also trust our kicker, and I trust our pass rush in 2-minute situations. So that's why I did what I did.
Awesome. Well, I'm there. Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Corey Hellerman, go right to questions for Coach Corey Hellerman.
All right, Coach, now that you've had a chance to kind of take a deep breath and watch the tape from last night, your general thoughts on the body of work?
You know, I thought our guys came out and we played fast early. I thought we communicated well early in the game. You know, the biggest thing is just some of the techniques and some of the fundamentals. Really, as the game progressed and as the game went on, we just got to clean some of that stuff up. But, you know, we were happy with the effort. We were happy with how hard the guys played. I thought we were physical. You know, we got to the football, and just little details now that we got to clean up so we can close out the game.
Can you talk about the interception? I mean, what an amazing play. I mean, really, Damari Brown, the way he read that bubble screen and blew the whole thing up, and then Bain hustling to the point where he was out there to make the interception.
Yeah, that's something you see from him every day in practice, and that's been one of the general things, you know, starting in spring football, is getting 11 hats to the ball. It's our swarm every single play, and just, you know, talking to the guys about opportunities. Like, you never know when that ball's going to get tipped, that ball's going to get deflected, you know, someone's going to get a punch out, and the ball's going to be on the ground. And if we run to the football, good things are going to happen to the defense. And that's just like the perfect example of it. You know, he swarming to the ball, and you don't know what's going to happen. It's, you know, could be a catch, could be a missed tackle, could be a deflection, and, you know, he's right there to make the play. And, you know, it's a great play by him. Then get up the sideline and you know, get as many yards as we can, and, you know, hopefully score on defense at some point. But the swarm by the guys all night, just getting a second hat to the ball carrier, getting a third guy there, you know, getting the fumble recovery on the perimeter, and then getting the interception. That's how we practice every single day, and it showed up in the game. And, you know, now we got to continue to do that for 4 quarters.
Can you broadly just provide context on what happened on the long bus to the tight end, what the mix-up was there?
Yeah, one guy came out of coverage. You know, it's just, you know, the call that we were in, you know, it was, you know, one guy had 2 vertical, and I think he saw the linebacker coming through the zone, and he was leveraging the back, and just took his eyes off it, and we cut a guy free. It can't happen. We'll get that cleaned up.
Bain and Mesidor, we know how valuable they are when they are at full strength. Just what they were able to do those last 2 plays specifically, how big was that for them to be able to close out the way they did?
Yeah, I think they did, you know, the way they played all game, the way they set edges, the way they knocked the line of scrimmage back, the way they canceled gaps, you know, defeating the line of scrimmage and knocking the guys back off the ball. They played like that all night. You know, I thought they did a really good job start to finish. And, you know, the biggest thing for us now is we gotta earn the right to rush the quarterback a little bit more. Last night, you know, we saw a ton of screens, we saw a ton of perimeter quick game. Didn't see a lot of vertical passes until a little bit later in the game, and then they could pin their ears back a little bit more. But yeah, those guys, our ability to get to the quarterback up front, we're excited about what we can do. And now we just gotta, you know, we gotta get more opportunities where we're third off track, or in a situation where, you know, hopefully we can play from ahead and be able to rush quarterback a little bit more.
They seem to put the ball in C.J. Carr's hand or depend on C.J. Carr a lot. Was that a surprise to you guys, or were you, was that something you game plan for?
You know, it was weird. You know, first game of the year, not really having any film on him, going back, watching his high school tape and his high school highlights and game film from there. We weren't really sure what to expect. You know, we game planned for multiple quarterbacks. We game planned for a wildcat offense. You know, we had gone back, you know, through their coordinators past and seen kind of what he had done at Cincinnati and seen what he'd done at LSU. And we had different game plans for a lot of things where, you know, the kids last night probably at the end of the game were like, why did we practice that? You know, so some stuff showed up, some stuff didn't show up. We didn't really anticipate as much run game from the quarterback with him in there, but I thought he did a really good job. He extended plays, he kept things alive. You know, that first touchdown, you know, he scrambles out of the pocket and he keeps the play alive. We come out of coverage and he finds a guy in the back of the end zone. That second touchdown, we had him 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, you know, in the tight red zone, and, you know, they run a quarterback lead, kind of caught us off guard a little bit, and he scores a touchdown. And then, you know, the last touchdown where he scrambles, you know, we had a miscommunication in coverage, and, you know, we kind of game planned something for a pitcher, and it wasn't that same pitcher, and we were short in the box, and it's something where, you know, we got to get that cleaned up. It happened twice in the game, and we'll get that fixed this week. But I thought he did a really good job with his legs, extending plays, and especially in the second half, you know, running the ball a little bit better, because that was our number one thing, was we wanted to stop the run as we went out and attacked them.
There were questions coming in up the middle and how you guys would hold up the middle. How did you feel at the line of scrimmage? I mean, you were tested with a couple of great running backs, the constant quarterback draws. How did you feel that you held up at the point of attack?
I thought our guys did a really good job of knocking the line of scrimmage back. I thought we played, our hands and feet. I thought our guys did a good job. Now it's just like the little details of like their target and, some of those little details on some of the movements. The 3rd down and 2 they converted. I thought we had an opportunity to get off the field. We just got to clean up our details on that one. We hit them right at the line of scrimmage. And, they get the 2 yards, they get the 1st down, and that goes down to be a touchdown drive. But I think like our rush lanes is something that we got to work on a little bit up the middle. But the run game, I thought we were pretty happy with the way the guys, knocked the line of scrimmage back. And the one thing that, we've already got written down for tomorrow, first thing in practice is, set the edge drill. I thought there were times we were working up the field. We were creating a little bit of seams and we got a little loose there on the edges and, that big 30-yard run that gets out. We kind of have a flyby. We go up the field. It creases us between the nickel and the end. And then we get cracked and pinned on the perimeter. And those are little things that, right away, that's what we're going to work to fix tomorrow in practice. And we'll get that stuff cleaned up this week in practice.
Game 1, tough opponent. After watching the film, tell us something positive you learned about your defense.
Our guys, they responded in different situations. The 4th quarter, I thought we played well, and we had a couple situations early in the game where they had a good look and maybe they didn't find it, or our guys swarmed, or someone made a really good play. Later when they came back, I thought our guys learned from the film and learned from the sideline adjustments and did a really good job responding to help us get off the field early in the game. Now, later in the game, we struggled a little bit there in the 4th quarter. We had the big play. We had a long drive we gave up, and to come out in a T4 after that field goal and really respond to put the game away at the end with that pass rush and our guys swarming to the ball. I thought that was huge for our guys to respond in that moment and not allow them to start to drive down the field and get either into field goal range or to score a touchdown there at the end. But I think, our guys overcoming some adversity there in the game and then just, working together and getting back to the sideline after a touchdown or after a missed opportunity and not turning on one another and working together and hashing things out. I was proud of our guys working through that and, learning to build and continue to grow. And, I think that's what's going to help us as we continue to go through the season here.
Keontae Scott at nickel, just his performance, he was on the field a lot.
Yeah, he probably played 57, 58 plays last night. He did some things really well. I thought we added him at times in the blitz game. I thought there were some times in coverage he did a really good job. The set the edge thing, we got to work on that a little bit. The 3rd and 4, they're coming out of a pick route, and he did a good job working over the top on that. But he's a guy, he's played a lot of college football. He's a really smart football player, and that stuff shows up in week 1 against an opponent like that. And I'm really excited about as now he's a little bit more detailed and learning more about the defense. Now he's learning how to play a little bit faster. And I think that's what we'll see from week 1 to week 2 as he keeps building here.
We've been working for 3 years to see Mesidor and Bain meet at the quarterback, and it happened last night. Is that something you guys speak about or talked about?
Yeah, especially in the last drive, you saw them on the same side, you saw them on opposite sides. You saw, one time they were inside, one time they were outside. Our rush plan every week, we're going to have different things to attack different people. And then same thing, we're going to try to play to our strengths and get those guys in different situations. But that's one of those things is, if we stop the run and we get guys off track, those are guys we want to cut loose in the pass rush a little bit. And, at the end of the game, we saw that and, worked out well for us there. And we got to continue to develop that plan and have the ability to let those guys go and have some success on 3rd down and late game situations.
You used Lightfoot a lot in those, some of those situations last night. How did he do?
He played really well. Yeah, he's, pass rush, some of his coverage ability, in space, different things that he can do. He's really like a linebacker, where he can do different things, dropping and rushing the quarterback. And then just his speed off the football, is usually causes problems for people. And that's, we have a lot of guys like that. You saw Malik in there, you saw Lightfoot in there. We'll put different guys in different situations. It could be a linebacker at different times, where we're going to put different guys in different pitchers and packages and try to get them up as mismatches for the offense.
Bryce Fitzgerald doesn't come in until the summer, was able to work his way to be able to get a few snaps out there on defense. What did he show you guys over the last month or so to be able to get your guys' trust to be out there in some of those plays?
One of the, we talk about swarm, we talk about being physical. One of the other things we talk about every single day, every meeting starts with a ball tape. and he is always around the football. Like there's just some guys that whatever it is, they always find the ball. They always create takeaways. They always make some big plays. And, you know, that's one thing that happened from day one that he got here in the summer. And during camp, you know, one of the last practices going to the game, he has 3 interceptions. And that's a guy that we want on the field when we feel like, you know, pass situations. And then, you know, in the scrimmages right away, it was, you know, how is he going to tackle? And, you know, he comes downhill and he tries to run through people. So, you know, he really stepped up in fall camp, and he's learned really well. You know, he was well coached in high school. You can tell the coaching staff there did a really good job of getting him ready and preparing him for college football. And, you know, that shows with his development and how he responded in camp coming in, you know, late in the summer. And then the other thing is, you know, with what we do on defense, you know, we do a lot of different things, but it's not a lot. It's like a little bit of techniques, a little bit of fundamentals, and we're allowed to move people around different spots. And, you know, we kind of did that last year with the safety that we had in Minnesota, and now we're doing it with him a little bit, where now you can get a guy on the field early and put him out there to be successful in different situations. And he's a guy, you know, we're excited about what he's going to do this year.
Your corner group, you rotated 4 guys, 25+ snaps, and, you know, seemed like you left them on islands and trusted them to kind of handle their business. They also were attacked in the quick game as well. How'd they perform just overall as a group?
Yeah, I thought our guys were physical, you know, with the screen game, setting edges, taking shots, trying to run through, tackle. You know, one thing all night we talked about was being disciplined with our eyes. You know, they came out, I think it was like 4 screens in the first 2 series. So right away it's like, hey, we're going to get a screen and go. We're going to get some type of double move and a shot right now. And our guys, you know, responded really well with their eyes. I think they hit the 1 fade ball up the sideline. It was, you know, really good play by a really good receiver. Good throw, good catch. But we're going to constantly challenge people on the perimeter, and I thought our guys really stepped up. I thought they played physical. I thought they communicated well. And, you know, one thing is it's always hard to get the checks to those guys. And I thought those guys all night, you could see them communicating. They had their eyes back in, and they were really handling a lot of the calls well. But, you know, I was really happy with that room last night, how they played. And, you know, now there's little details that we got to clean up, you know, coming out of coverage and zone coverage a couple times, pushing the coverage with the quarterback, moving the pocket a couple times. And now those are the things we'll work on this week to get better for next week.
Staying with the cornerbacks, I think Zero makes a big catch over OJ
Yep.
on our sideline. What's your assessment of that play? What is your assessment of that play? What's your message to OJ?
You know, I thought he was there. The one we wanted to see is you'd love to see the safety come off a little bit faster. I thought he pulled up a little bit short, get the second hat there. But I thought he was in really good leverage. You know, I think he's just got to play up and finish through the hands now. You know, I thought if he goes chest to chest and finishes through the play, he's gonna have a shot. But at the end of the day, that's a really good wide receiver and that's a really good throw. I mean, that was a big time play by them. And you know, I thought they did some things where I thought they made some big plays. The quarterback scrambling a couple times, extending things. You know, those running backs ran hard. You know, we were trying to, you know, deliver as many blows as we could, and those guys, you know, kept coming downhill. But that was one of the plays in the game that stood out to me, that they stepped up and they made a big time play on us. And I thought OJ had really good coverage most of the night.
Anything else? Great. Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.